Hey, Shalom Alkin, this is Vakar Makapash from GMS London, giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Chodash. Going to give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful, we're pushing this truth in all sincerity. Right, back with another video, and I wanted to check up this passage where it says in is it Matthew 11 verse 7, right? It says and as they departed, Yahushua began to say unto the multitudes concerning John, right? John the Baptist, right? It says, "What went ye out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaking with the wind," right? So I wanted to, check up that passage and what he meant, right? And just do a lesson based off that, right? Because we know John the Baptist was a man of the Lord, right? And he came in a way like other prophets did, to a large degree, right? And he's not, he won't ghetto fabulous, right? Like a lot of Israelite camps want to be. They want to be ghetto fabulous, man, right? But John, he wasn't like that, right? And Yahushua said, "What did you expect to see when you went out there in the wilderness?" Right? And so he uses this term, a reed shaken in the wind, right? So I'll put it up in Google here, and we've got the AI overview here, right? So I'm just read what it says, right? Because initially when I thought about this video, it was going to be mostly on John, and in comparison to who the world calls Jesus, right? And his appearance, we're gonna compare the two, right? And their appearances, right? But as I was reading more of this, man, this is what Christianity has become ultimately, right? And you will see what I mean in a minute when I go through it, right? So yeah, it says in the context of Yahweh Shai, I'm going to use the real name. In Yahweh Shai's statement about John the Baptist, a reed shaking in the wind signifies a person easily swayed by external influences, right? John the Baptist was in the spirit, man, right? And he was given insight, understanding, okay, outside of what was typically taught or knew about, right? And he was looked at a bit strange because he didn't dwell with the masses, so to speak. He put himself out there in the wilderness and was preaching, all right, in the middle of the desert kind of thing, right? He was out there preaching, right? Where very few people were, when people came through, but no one lived there. They were just moving through the area, and he would be there preaching, all right. So it says a person, a reed shaking in the wind signifies a person easily swayed by external influences, lack of conviction or lacking conviction, or firmness in their beliefs or actions, right? So a person lacking in these things, right? John was not that, right? Much like the prophets, that we have today, right? The men of the Lord that are here today, we are unmovable in our beliefs, right? And we're not going to change it just because you don't like it, unlike what I'm about to get into, the Christian church, all right? Because the Christian church has been making all kinds of changes throughout the years to become more appealing, right? So they can get or maintain its followers, right? They bring all kinds of damnable heresies and wickedness into the church, and the teachings and stuff, right? You're allowed to have flamers in the congregation now. Women can be ministers, reverends and pastors and all these types of things, right? And like I said, that's all a farce anyway. The whole Christian, mainstream Christian religion is BS anyway, right? It's all idol worship anyhow, right? But you could tell, this is what the Christian church is a reed shaken in the wind, right? It's weak, and that's why ultimately you're losing people, right? Jacob leaving the congregations, right? Because it is a weak philosophy, a weak doctrine at the end of the day, right? Because it's not really based on truth. Okay, you Christians are wishy-washy, wacky-tacky and wishy-washy, So let me carry on reading this, right? It says Yahushua uses this imagery to contrast John, who he describes as a steadfast prophet, right? Who is it? ISUPK. I think then man I say John the Baptist for that truth or whatever. Yahushua, his man was steadfast. That's why he was saying what he was saying about him. Steadfast prophet, right? With those who are fickle and easily influenced, right? And that, like I said, that can you can bunch of whole people in that category. Those that are easily influenced, Israelite and non-Israelite alike, right? No matter what they believe in, right? They're easily influenced, right? And so, if we take a look at the camps that we have today, they're not the same. They're not the same. They've not maintained the doctrine that was given to them, so they've been easily influenced, right, by one thing or another, whether it be other doctrines, whether it be by Satan, whether it be by money, whatever the case may be. They're easily swayed and able to change, right? Something John did not allow. He did not change, right? He stood fast in what he believed, and bear in mind, this is before Yahushua. Well, not before he came, but he wasn't taught by Yahushua, right? He was out there in the wilderness on his ones, teaching the coming of the Messiah before the Lord, came on the scene like that. All right, so he believed in what he was teaching, regardless of for lack of a better word, common consensus at the time. He was raised up to be a prophet, right? To usher in the Lord, right? But reading on, it says, here's a more detailed explanation, right? Context. Yahushua posed the question, what did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken by the wind, to the crowds who had gone to see the John the Baptist, right? Because they'd heard about John. So the meaning of the image, the reed shaken by the wind, was a common metaphor in that era, symbolizing someone who is easily influenced, unstable, or lacking strong convictions. Yahushua's point, by asking if they expected to see a reed shaken by the wind, right? Yahushua was implying that John was not a person who changed his message, right? And again, that's something that Christian Church has done a lot, or elements of their message, right? Now, things that were unacceptable are now acceptable because the Christian Church is trying to keep up with the times, because they're losing influence, right? And they try to maintain the congregation because the world's so messed up, right? They've had to water down the message, water down the doctrines, right, to allow folly into the church so they can keep the numbers up, or try to, but they're still failing. Right, so a person that who was not a person who changed his message. And again, you can apply the same thing to these other Israelite camps that have changed the message over time. Some Edomites can be saved now. Some what's another good example? Some don't believe in the reincarnation anymore. The MOTB is not the RFID microchip. Things like this, right? I know there's a bunch of others, man. Not current in my head right now, but yeah, they're doing, or the same is happening with these other camps. All right, so John was not a person who changed his message or behavior. These people, these Israelites acting weird as hell right now, of late, right? He didn't change his behavior based on popular opinion or pressure, right? And this is it. All these people seem to be operating under popular opinion and pressure, man. They're bowing down to what people expect of them, what people want to see of them, right? How to be more commercially viable, to be more recognized. Oh, maybe we make a rap division to make us more popular, because they're concerned about public opinion, public image. Image is a big thing for these fucking Israelite camps out here right now, man. And not just Israelite camps, all these other Christian churches that they have a problem with that, right? Trying to keep up with things and trying to be relevant or to boost their numbers, man. All right, GMS have never done that. We've never cared about how other people see us. We got a job to do, and we just concentrate on doing the job. We're not out here trying to appeal to these people's foolish side or carnal side or superfluous side. We're not here to do that, man. To appease your feelings, any of that. Okay, we just got a message, and it's gonna be delivered, all right, whether you like it or not. That's the message. All right, we're not trying to get on your good side, so you can come and join us and be in the camp with us. That's not why we're here. All right, that's not the reason why we're here. Same way John was, right. But again, pressure, public opinion and pressure with this Christian church, right? Because they get a lot of heat, because it was a stance where they wouldn't accept the rainbow division into the congregations, right? Because we all know that to be a sin, right? But they have had to soften up on the tone of that, and not everybody agrees in their what do I call it? In their divisions, or these umbrella groups, umbrella churches or whatever. They don't all agree with certain of the teachings, but they are under one umbrella, so to speak, in terms of Christianity, Roman Catholic Church, right? But they've been, a lot of them being forced to allow women to be up in high places, right? To allow the Rainbow Coalition inside to infiltrate them, right? To allow them inside and make them reverends and pastors and deacons and bishops and whatever. It's madness, Again, the man that celebrated Easter, I mean, that's been around for a long time. They've been doing that, but all these things came in from pressure and public opinion, right? Because they wanted to appease or appeal to people, Reading on, says, contrast with John, says Yahushua question suggests that John the Baptist was a man of strong conviction. And you gotta be. You have to be, man. Unwavering, right? A prophet who spoke God's truth regardless of the circumstances. All right? Application to believers. In a broader sense, the phrase serves as a warning against being easily swayed by every new teaching or opinion that comes along, and instead, right? And again, you got these new camps bringing up new doctrines, and that sounds plausible. The lake of fire. It's a strip down in the Middle East, right? A lake a river in the Middle East. All these new things that these guys coming up to stay relevant, to seem like they're deep, and to get attention and whatever, views and likes, subscribes and all this shit. They're bringing in these new things so people with itching ears can kind of latch onto, right? But we're not meant to be swayed by these things newly come up, right? We're meant to stay fast in the doctrine that we've been taught from the beginning. All right, be like John, right? So again, in a broader sense, the phrase serves as a warning against being easily swayed by every new teaching or opinion that comes along, and instead encourages believers to stand firm in their faith and convictions. All right, and that's what we do here at GMS, beginning of elders and apostles on down. Us brothers stay true to what we've been taught. Okay. So yeah, back. Because there was another aspect of this I wanted to tackle as well, or to talk about, and it's the next verse here. But before I go ahead and do that, let me get some precepts on the previous point, right? So this is Ephesians chapter 4 verse 14. Start from 12 here, right? It says, for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Yahushua, said the Mashiach, till we all come into the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Yahushua Mashiach. That we henceforth be no more children, right? Because children are impressionable. Children are constantly absorbing information, right? That is being, brought to them, right? So if they hear something, it kind of, they pick it up on it, So be no more children tossed to and fro, right? And carried about with every wind of doctrine. Okay, again, that idea of being a reed shaking in the wind, right? Being tossed about with every wind of doctrine, right? We're not meant to be children that's susceptible to all these changes and all these new things and whatever. We're meant to be like, once we learn this truth, we're meant to be kind of stuck, right? Stuck in, what do they call that, man? You might call someone, say someone they're stuck in their ways. We're meant to be stuck in our ways, man. Once we learn this truth and we know it, okay, we're meant to be stuck on it, man. Okay, ain't nobody's, we're meant to be ignorant, not ignorant in a wicked sense, but like hard-headed towards other things, other doctrines, man. Right? Especially when they don't, they don't even slightly coincide with what we taught. We have to stay firm on what we believe in. All right. It says, and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men. These are nothing but trickeries and things made up by men, right? And cunning craftiness whereby they lie in wait to deceive, right? So they have a hidden agenda of why, they bring about these things, right? And that's why we don't, you look at these other camps that, coming out with all these new doctrines, man. Like, come on, man. You why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? Like, we know why. Because like I said, it's not because it's just because you want to sound deep and you want to catch some followers, get some money coming in, or whatever the case may be. It's for your own agenda. It's not because it's part of the truth, right? You might are just heavily deluded if you think that what you're doing is bringing more truth or adding, or I'm trying to find a way to word it. You're not bringing nothing new out like that we didn't already have an understanding of already. You know what I'm saying? We was already given that understanding of these things, and if you to come and bring up some next new thing that is contrary to what we've already been taught, what you doing, man? But like I said, you got your own agendas and reasons why you're doing these things, right? Again, it's sleight of men and cunning craftiness, right? All for the sake of deception. Okay. 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 1 says, but there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction, right? So we've got people denying the Lord and his name and the Father's name and all kinds of things, right? And bringing, setting their own thing, under a different banner or whatever the case may be, right? Or maybe they think Esau can be saved now, or whatever the case is, whatever these doctrines are that exist, okay, that these other camps have brought in that didn't exist before. That wasn't something that was being taught back at the old school or, anything like that, or, but this was prophetic. This is gonna happen, right? But these are meant to be signs that, who the men the Lord are and who weren't, So anyone that wouldn't stick true to the message that was given to them originally, these men are not men of the Lord. It really was quite simple. As much as it sounded interesting or it could be plausible and, the Mars Hill talk, right? The man just reason, oh, well, that's interesting. Oh, yeah, that sounds deep. Oh, no, well, yeah, it could be, all that discussion, right? No, we had a clear message, man, and our message did not change. It didn't matter what this guy said over here. As mystical and as great as it may have sounded, or how plausible it might have sounded, we don't hear that guy. You might have chatting shit, right? We don't hear that guy, right? We hear what we got, what was given to us. That's what we hear. We don't hear him, because look, the scripture say, "My sheep hear my voice." Right? The only voice that the sheep hear is the Lord's voice, man. Is the word, is the truth. We don't hear these other guys, right? We don't. That's strange to us, man. We don't hear it. We only hear the Lord. And that's how we're supposed to be. You can call us stubborn or whatever, whatever you want to do, what you want to say about us, but that's how we're supposed to be, man, because, pertains to this truth, It's for 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 4, right? It says, for if he that cometh preacheth another Yahushai, whom ye have not preached, or if ye received another spirit, which ye have not received, or another gospel, which ye have not accepted, ye might bear well with him, right? So, if we're not meant to receive any new thing, right? In terms of, these weird ass doctrines, man. Something contrary to what you learned. Right? There's a difference between something that's contrary and something that expounds what we already know. There's a difference in that. The things can be expounded as more information um, comes to light, or as it manifests and that great understanding occurs, right? But to go left, it's not that anymore. It's this. That's something different. That's something new. You know what I'm saying? All right, we're not meant to be swayed by new things that people come up with, these opinions, and we're not gonna bow to that pressure, okay? Or be beguiled by it. Um, it's first Galatians chapter 1, verse 6. So I marvel that you are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Yahweh Shai Mashiach unto another gospel, right? Which is not another, because we always the same books, right? The Bible, right? Whatever translation you're using, but it's the same book, right? Yeah, greater understanding can be got from various versions or whatever, and you got to go into the Hebrew and Greek to get true understanding and stuff like that. But it's the same book, right? It shouldn't be so different, right? But in some cases, these like the Christians, for instance, it's so different. It's like we're reading from a different book, but it's not, right? But because they don't understand certain things, they don't break down words. They believe their savior is a leper, and they believe their savior is come to save the whole world, all creeds, all people, all nations. When that's just not the message. That's not true, right? But because they've been told that the doctrine based around scriptures and not, they haven't been taught the scriptures. They've just been taught a doctrine around the scriptures, which if you take things in isolation, yeah, you can make it sound like what you want it to sound like, but the truth is, this book is for the Israelites, man. The Lord come to save his people. The Lord is a man of dark complexion, but it doesn't fit the narrative that they want to paint, and so they discredit it, But hey, you do what you want with that information, man. But we know what the truth is, you know. So again, it says, I marvel that you are so removed from him that called you into the grace of Yahweh Shai unto another gospel, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel of Yahweh Shai. And that's what they've done. Okay, these Christians, and like I said, not just the Christians, but some of these Israelite camps too. All right, so but though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which ye have preached unto you, let him be accursed. And as we said before, I so say I now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed. Right? So that's how it is, man. That's how it is with us, man. You want to teach someone else, you don't want to listen to us, fine. Be destroyed. And that's to all you that don't believe. And this is 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3 says, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, right? But after their own lust, they shall heap to themselves some teachers having itching ears, right? Because they want to hear something new, something exciting. The man are bored of the doctrine, or they didn't like the doctrine, how it was. They want to bring in something new, and that sounds good. Yeah, I can get down with that. Yeah, oh, I'll get to rap. Yeah, you know what I mean. I get to wear, all kinds of shit, right? I'll get to wear a uniform and look like a king, or supposedly. Kings in the building, right? But all these gimmicks that these Israelite groups have come up with, right, to make themselves more appealing to certain demographics of Jake, right? All that don't mean shit, right? So that's a waste of time. But because it's it's appealing to the world, they gravitate towards these things, right? So this is why they do it, right? So yeah, they will not enjoy sound doctrine, but after their own lust, so they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, because they want to be dazzled, man. They want to be deceived, right? So, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, right? And that's what's starting to happen. What has happened among these Israelite camps, right? But again, extending it to these Christians, man. These Christians been around as an organization for a long time, right? And they've always been adjusting and bringing fallacies into the church, okay, to appeal to a bigger group of people. And this is why we got the monster we got today. Where you got a whole bunch of cardinals and priests, doing shit to little boys and shit, man, and it goes unchecked. But that's the monster that's been created. But anyway, slightly different topic. But yeah, so they should turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned unto fables. Okay, be brought unto lies. Right. So I've got those pieces I wanted to get there. Right. Pardon me. Because this is the image of the Christian church's savior. This guy is a soft dude, man. Unlike John the Baptist, as we were just reading. Okay, so again, I want to contrast John the Baptist with the Lord. Well, who they got as the Lord? This just is impersonator, Jesus Christ, right? This guy is soft as hell. This guy does not strike you as someone that is unwavering, or what did they say about John? Let me go back up. Steadfast or firm. He doesn't. This guy doesn't look like a firm person, right? And that's why your Christianity isn't a religion of firmness, because you got all these doctrines as, oh, he loves me as I am. He loves everybody. Oh, you forgive me all my sins, and you can just do an infinite amount of sins, and you just go to the priest, and he just forgives you, because he meant to be acting on the Lord's behalf of forgiveness, which is bullshit. But like, you got such a soft and lazy religion, man. It's unreal, right? Because you got a guy like this head in it, right? A guy who doesn't strike fear in you whatsoever, right? You don't look like you like. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. He don't look steadfast at all. Guy don't look steadfast at all. Now, I mean, these characters look more austere. You know what I mean? But we're talking about, that's not the image you got up in your church. These are awful lots of pictures from Russia and thing. But no, this is the Western European version of the Lord. Soft as hell. Right? He is a reed shaking in the wind, right? Soft as hell, right? you know. Right. But what I wanted this. Nope. Yeah, right. Oh, because if we go back here, Matthew 11:9, and I want to go with verse 8. Right. It says because Yahushua continues to speak concerning John. It said, but what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment. Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went ye out to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, more than a prophet. Right? So he's saying, men that wear soft clothing, man, are people that live in the king's houses, right? So I went to search out what did the Lord mean by that. I wanted to see what the AI had to say about it, right? And so it breaks it down here. In Matthew 11 verse 8, when Yahushua asked, what did you go out into the wilderness to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Question mark, right? He is contrasting John the Baptist's simple desert attire, right, with the luxurious clothing worn by people in royal courts, right? The term soft raiment refers to fine, elegant clothing, often associated with wealth and high social status. And this is what IUIC tries to emulate with the purple and gold in the uniform, and the bangles and all that shit, right? Because they want to appear to be somewhat of a higher social class, right, of wealth, right? Oh, well, Nate is an actual millionaire, like multi, you know. So I guess he fits that bill, but the rest of you ain't, right? But you like the appearance of looking so, because that's the whole get up of the IUIC, right? But John the Baptist never looked like that. And you out there actively calling us bums and shit. Like, Well, John the Baptist, he was looking a bit dusty, quite literally, right? In his garments. Same with the Lord, which is what I was going to get to, right? The Lord never came with no robe apparel, some soft raiment, you know, right? The Lord did. Like I said, the Lord wasn't looking soft, you know. I mean, the white tee's a bit basic, so you know, I'm not gonna say like, yeah, who's looking like all these robes and thing here, like, you know, you're looking soft, right? But it literally would have been basic, like, you know, just basic. But you know, we get called onto that, you know, because you know it's all about how you look, right? So it's all about how you look, right? You know, I don't know, but yeah. All right, so it says Yahushua's question highlights that John's attire was the opposite of this, right? Emphasizing his role as a prophet who lived a life of austerity, right? With very little, you know, and detachment from worldly possessions. All right. And it seems like with these other camps, they are more worldly, like a lot, right? Because they want to look like they want to emulate the world. They want to look and portray things of the world. Some men want to be gangsters. Some men want to be rappers. Some want to look like they're blinging out to death. You know. Some men want to show off the fact that they're you know blinging out to death, right? You know they are very worldly orientated Israelites. They care about these things, right? And not to say that we all don't have like material stuff, because brothers got material stuff, man. But that's not really focus. It's not. We're not boasting in the fact that we have these things, or you haven't got these things, or so, you know, like I said, like some of these other camps, right? Man, are boast in the carnal a lot, you know. Some are boasting in how militant they are, you know, how mighty they are, right? You know, these men ain't being no wars, right? You know, they were just boasting different carnal aspects that, you know, appeals to people in the world, right? For, you know, for different people, you know what I'm saying? There's an element to them that appeals to these people out here that make them want to join these groups, and typically why these other groups are larger, or large groups, you know, henceforth they can get the money coming in. You know, everyone's got their angle to push, you know, but it's because they're pushing these worldly mindsets, right? So he goes on to say, here's a more detailed explanation. Soft raiment. This phrase is in the original Greek refers to clothing made of fine linen or other luxurious materials, right? Now, let's just be real. IUIC, you know, they have they want the appearance of it. Man ain't spending all that money on fine garments, but they want to act and behave like they've got those things, you know, because they want to boast and act proud, right? But let's be real, you man ain't rolling with no the finest of silks and all that kind of stuff. You just fronting, and then you like to stunt on other brothers that ain't doing it like you, or don't even want to do it like you. We're not even like looking at you like, oh man, I wish I had that garment. We don't even think like that. You don't even want what you got, you know. But I hate it because they're bombs, bomber lads. All this shit, like man, we don't care. That's what's dumb about it, you know. So yeah, but you're not even rolling like that anyway. You know what I'm saying? Only some of you got money like that, but you know, you guys are jokers. So yeah, other luxurious materials often associated with royalty or those in positions of power and comfort. These men are about comfort. Let's just know that. All right. They want to be in positions of power. They want to be seen in the community. I think one of the lines was, they want to influence, right? That's why they do these fucking marches, right? Contrast with John's attire. John the Baptist, as described in the Gospels, wore clothing made of camel's hair and a leather belt. Well, I would say in some aspects he's doing better than some of us. I ain't got no leather belt. Leather was probably quite expensive these days. You know, we like that PU leather, that fake leather shit that, you know, gets destroyed after a month or two. But no, he was wearing some rough garment, man. Some basic garment. You know, just thrown together garment, man. Which is what most of the brothers have. Yeah, you know, brothers have. You know, we have access to colors and stuff like that. You know, which is not so accessible back, or as accessible back in, you know, back in those days. So yeah, brothers got different colored garments or whatever, but they are just basic garments. They didn't cost a lot. You know what I'm saying? You know, we had a little bit of a flavor and character to them, but that's about it, man. You know, none of us are buying, you know, the finest of silks. You know, so you know, it is what it is. But these guys actually believe that, you know, they're better than us because they got matching garments. They actually think that they're wearing gold. But it's the appearance. You want the image of that, so you can brag and boast. As I say, it's all just part of that carnal mindset that they have. Yeah. So same with the ISUPK. You know, they man will wear all in black. So what? They look intimidating. I think the man still got the studded armbands and shit. You know, head bands and shit. You know, leather headbands or whatever. You know, more like the old school. But you know, us, man, we are here to teach, man. That's it, man. Don't look upon us and think, you know, that we ain't got the truth because we ain't got we ain't got stunning garments, man. You know, we're not here to be looked upon like that. You know, to be respected because of our get up. You know, we're here to teach the gospel in its entirety, and that's what needs to be respected. The gospel, all right. Symbolism. Oh, it's like I didn't finish the one above, right? So yeah, leather belt, and his diet consists of locusts and wild honey. This starkly contrasts with the image of someone adorned in soft, elegant clothing, right? It's a contrast to those in soft, elegant clothing. Okay, just like we are a contrast to those that parade around, pantomime Israelites, you know. Symbolism. Yahweh Shai's question about soft raiment is not merely a description of John's clothing, but also a symbolic statement about his character and ministry. Okay, everything, it represents the ministry, right? Everything we do represents the ministry, right? So we have to give ourselves an accurate account of what we're supposed to be like. Okay, and we have these other camps to reference what not to be like. All right. So they emphasize that John was not seeking worldly validation. We don't seek the world's approval in anything, right? Not seeking worldly validation or comfort, but you know, guys at IORC, they want to build schools and malls and hospitals and colleges, universities and theaters or whatever the movie you call those things, man. You know, produce movies, man. What do we call those things, man? The old little Hollywood, right? They want to amass money so they can build and have more things in this world, which is all material, right? And like I said, you know, all this money makes one comfortable, right? And we know the money's not being shared around like equally or evenly or even fairly, right? Nate's got all the money pretty much, and maybe some other man I got a few shekels, but most of them not able to even participate in that, right? But they all seek it, right? Because of the leadership or the lack of, right? It says that John was not seeking worldly validation or comfort, but was focused on delivering God's message. Okay, again, that's something GMS. We're just focused on that. All right. Austerity and prophecy. The contrast between John's attire and the soft raiment of the wealthy highlights the prophetic nature of his ministry. Prophets of God often lived of simplicity and detachment from worldly pursuits. Right? This is just simply how we're supposed to be, how things are for us. Right? We don't make this ministry about anything more than just the truth. We're not here to make you rich. We're not here to I don't know. That bites lad. You know, we're not here to help you with worldly pursuits. A brother might, you know, you might need a job, you might be out of work or whatever. You might throw up a job opportunity in the chat, you know. But we're not here to coach you through, you know, ways to make it in this world, or, you know, whatever the case may be, man. Okay, because as I said, they're committed to spiritual matters, right? We're here for your spiritual growth, first and foremost, right? And as you grow in wisdom and that, and if the Lord deems it or blesses you with certain things, and you know, then you move with that blessing. You know, everybody's circumstances are different, but we're not here, like I say, we're not here to you know, get you a wife. You know, we're not here for, like, brotherhood is important and it's great. Okay, very much so. But we're not here as your social, you know, gathering group where, you know, you just get to, you know, snack off. You know what I mean? Snack off, right? You're just here to because you know you want you know, people, you want friends. You know, you're in the camp just because you want friends. You know, no, we got a job to do, man. And yeah, like I say, brotherhood exists. You know, brothers get together, and, you know, hey, brothers are your friends, man. But, you know, that's not the purpose of our ministry. You know, other things, man. You know, we're not here to set you up with a 501k, or your own business, or, you know, any of these things, like, you know, desire. I could talk about, you know, we need to, you know, there's things greater than God, and, you know, he's talking about all these businesses that he was getting involved in, and I'm like, these men are lost the way, right? They're really just focused on making money now, right? Their God is mammon, you know. So we're not here to help you those things, right? John would have told you to fuck off. He's like, why are you wasting my time? You know, I'm here to preach the Lord, and you're asking me about investment for, or whatever. You know what I mean? It was like, what do you mean? Like, fuck off, man. All right, we're just very simple. You know, we're here to teach the truth, and that's what we do, right? So again, prophets of God often lived of simplicity and detachment from worldly pursuits, right? We're not trying to gain further attachments, you know. It says from worldly pursuits to demonstrate their commitment to spiritual matters. All right, Al-Azhar is the, you know, one of the more recent victims to the pursuit of worldly shit, you know, and departing from the doctrine and making up madness, you know. So yeah, what I want to say is this, because obviously I had the imposter Christ here, right? Stark contrast to John. Even with this, you know what I'm saying? Lord, in the scriptures, the Lord's a serious guy, right? He ain't a soft dude here, you know. Lord was serious, man. He didn't come like this dude. How you portray this dude, man? You know, this guy seems soft and he seems weak. Okay, and he doesn't seem to care what you do in the world. As long as you believe him, that, you know, then you're saved already. You ain't been saved from shit yet, but you believed it because you've been told it. That's the doctrine you teach, but it's not scriptural, right? But this is not the Lord, man. The Lord is an austere man too, just like John was, right? To So Luke 19:21 says this, right? It says, "For I have feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up that thou layest not down, and reapest that thou didst not sow." Right? This is representing the Lord here. This is Yahushua breaking down his parable, right? But this is to represent him, that he is a Lord who is austere, right? He wasn't playing no games, you know. Because the way you Christian, you portray the Lord is like he was out there giving hugs to everybody. Love me, and I shall love you. Give me a hug, like my man's Barney or something. Barney the fucking dinosaur. You know. Well, the Lord was an austere man. The Lord is not this weak dude that you portray in the churches, man. Like John was austere. He rolled around, you know, in a serious manner, man. Wasn't flimsy. It wasn't, like I said, a reed shaken in the wind. All right. Is Isaiah 52 verse 14 says, "As many were astonished or astonished at thee, his visage was so marred more than any man, and his form was more than the sons of men." Right. And again, he's talking about the Lord, right? His visage, right, was marred, right? He got seriously messed up, you know, by Herod's guards and shit, man. You know, these Romans, right? He suffered a lot, but he suffered even before that. Before he you know, his hands were laid upon him. It's from Isaiah 53, right? It says here, "For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of the dry ground. He had no form, no comeliness," right? So he's not some beauty, you know. I'm not saying, you know, no Diddy, but like this guy, he's obviously been painted to look beautiful, like some flamer, bro. Like he's some flamer dude, and he and the Lord is just not that, you know. Like the way you portray, depicting, like, man's got full face of makeup on, his hair's all glowing and shit, his face is glowing, got blusher on. You know what I'm saying? You know, man got that fucking heart, and you know, he look, you know what I'm saying, man. All right, you don't look like this dude. You look more serious, man. But you know what I'm saying, man. Like he's some fucking pretty boy, some wet dude. But again, that's not who he is in the scriptures, man. Right? He said he shall have no form of comeliness. So he can't even use his beauty, right, to deceive people, because people are deceived by those types of things. They see, you know, someone that's good looking, whether it be a man or woman, and they got all the time in the world for them, all the ears to hear, right? But when you're not, you know, you're not so high up on the good looking scale, you know, people they don't bother whether they hear you or not, man. And if you're ugly, it's like you're fucked. Like no one will listen to you. You know, no one wants to hear your opinions and shit, right? But the Lord never used it. Could never use his visual appearance to attract people, to make them listen. Again, in contrast to guys like IUIC, that it's all about their appearance to gain attention, so people can listen to them. Oh, they got money. They look all put together. They got all the purple garments, the gold. Yeah. Oh, they must be the real Israelites. Because people are attracted by those things, by the gimmicks, by the carnal things of this world. The Lord didn't come in a carnal way that he could deceive you by carnal means, right? He came with the message. That's what he came with. Same with John, right? You didn't want to listen to him. That's your problem, bro. That's your problem. The Lord came for his elect, came for his sheep. So if you don't want to listen, man, ain't no business to him. Ain't the same as no business to us if you don't want to hear us, right? So he couldn't even deceive you with his looks and his appearance, you know. He said, "He have no form, no comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him," right? He couldn't come like what was David's son, the long hair, shit, Absalom. He couldn't come like Absalom, because people they wondered after Absalom because he was a beautiful man, a good looking man. Yeah, man had long hair. Well, that long hair got caught up in the bush, man, and you know, that was his downfall. Well, aside from the wickedness, but that's the reason why it happened. you know, because of his wickedness. And his long ass got caught up in the fucking tree. You know, who was it? Joab? Was it Joab that did it? Was it? I think it was Joab. You know that smote him. You know, I don't think it was. No, it's not Abner. It's Joab. I'm sure. Right? But yeah, so he couldn't use that. Right? So he was despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows. So before even hands were laid on him, man, he was a stressed out dude, man. He was under heavy stress. Right? He was under heavy stress, you know, for the role he had to play. Right? So he was despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows. Man was down, man, and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised and we esteemed him not. Does this look like a guy that was stricken with grief? You know? Like I said, you can say, like, you know, this guy is more serious. Like, you know, you might get that. You know, he gets it. He gets it. Right? You know, hard life. This guy never had a hard life ever, bro. You know? Never had nothing. You know what I'm saying? You know? Come on, man. So yeah, so of course he was in a particular state of mind, man. He wasn't happy-go-lucky and just like a bumbling buffoon. Jolly, you know, fucking jovial. You know what I mean? Oh, come give me a hug. Yes, the Lord is here. Come to save you all. No, it was a serious thing, man. Like what he was dealing with. Right? And the message that he had to bring. Right? The life he had to live was all serious. Okay, a great weight was on his shoulders, man. Right? So this is why he's in a particular spirit, just like John was in a particular spirit. You out there in the fucking wilderness, man, just living off honey and locusts and shit, man. That's not fucking fun. Don't sound like fun. I mean, I don't know. I ain't a bit locust, but but it don't sound like fun, man. Just being out in the wilderness and you surviving on honey and locusts, man. It doesn't sound like, yeah, it don't sound like fun, man. I wouldn't be in a fun mood. You know what I'm saying? You know, it wouldn't be fun, right? So I ain't gonna be in that type of mood, right? And John wasn't in that type of mood, man. He was deadly serious, man. And again, the Lord was the same way. All right, it says, surely he have borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All right. Yeah, so don't think the Lord was fucking grinning from ear to ear. You know what I mean? It's just not who the Lord was, man. It's not who was portrayed here in the scriptures, right? Okay, I should have added this one earlier. But this is from John chapter 2, verse 15. Like, Lord got angry at times, man. Right? It says, verse 15, and when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them, because they were selling. Let me read up above, man. Let me get the context. Verse 13, and the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Yahushua went up to Jerusalem, and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and changes of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changes, money, and overthrew the tables. My man crashed out, man. He made a scene. And whipping them out the temple. Right? My man was vexed. Right? And like I said, I wish I was almost like on that edge the whole time. You know, being frustrated with his disciples, because they were being a bit like, you know, a bit stupid at times, or whatever, or not spiritual, or whatever the case may be. He was being frustrated by his disciples. There was a man in the temple was taking the piss, and you know the way he's been treated. You know, he was always on the verge of crashing out on somebody, man. You know, but at this particular moment, like, you know, his composure went, and if it had to, because it fulfilled prophecy. But the Lord was in that state of mind. You don't have to understand. He wasn't, like I said, he wasn't happy-go-lucky. Like nothing fazed him, bro. He was being burdened by with a lot, right? So he wasn't in that happy spirit mood. you know. But this particular incident kind of put him over the edge, right? And this is why he did what he did, right? As it goes on to say, verse 16, and said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence, make not my father's house a house of merchandise. And his disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of thine house have eaten them up, right? So I said that particular moment, he's vexed in the spirit, man. And so we did that. But again, it was all prophetic. But it's just to show you, man, that the Lord, he was, like I say, he was always on the verge of doing something like that, man. Because he wasn't in that happy-go-lucky spirit, man. Right? Definitely not this dude. This guy didn't know he could hurt a fly. And they'd probably teach you that. They'd probably tell you that to you, man. He would never hurt a fly. He's so soft and gentle, bro. Our Lord, that's in the scriptures, is not soft and gentle, man. You know? Not soft and gentle in the least. All right? But like I said, this is what the savior of Christianity. That's their savior. This idol, this pop idol. This leper pop idol. All right? And like I said, originally, like, this Christian church is like a reed shaking in the wind. They've changed up so much over the years, to keep up with the times. And they've said that in articles I've read in the past, man. The Christian church needs to find a way to keep up with the times because things are changing. They're scared. They're losing all their people. So they have to make a God that accepts everybody. No matter what it is that they're doing. Right? And this is why you got this character, this image up here, man. Because this guy looks like he would. This guy doesn't look like he cares about what you're doing. If it's good or evil, he loves you, innit? He loves everybody. All right, but that's just not the God of the scriptures, man. It's not the Son of God. All right. But I'm gonna end it there. Well, this went on longer than I thought, but I was enjoying myself in it, so whatever. So I'm gonna end it here anyway. Lord, this has been edifying, and I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Till next time, I say shalom.